Well, it came from a season of my life, a chapter that I would put a giant failure stamp over top. And admittedly, I learned the most, but I learned what it looks like to find your next gear instead of trying to force some success formula out there. But the one common denominator that I found among the people that didn't make it was that they spent more time in their comfort zones than the people that won. And so I wanted a playbook that enabled me to stay out of my comfort zone longer than everybody else so that I had a better shot at winning. And that's where the G.E.A.R framework came from. Back in 2008, the last big recession that we all saw in our economy, I was in the middle of pursuing a dream and a career in professional drag racing. If you've seen those long, skinny cars that go 300 miles an hour in just 4 seconds, they're called a top fuel dragster. But I remember the time I walked out of a corporate boardroom and I was going out to my little 6-cylinder Mustang that I drove. It was my road warrior. It was a convertible top that leaked, but I didn't care. I was putting thousands and thousands of miles on this thing, just trying to find support, trying to find partners in corporate America. And after what felt like the 50th no, I remember feeling sorry for myself. I stood out there by that little black Mustang and I kind of looked down at my shoes and they were kind of scuffed up at that point because I probably had a couple thousand miles on those shoes as well. And I remember thinking to myself, how do people make it? I had 7 different jobs at that time in my life, all funneling into making that dream a reality. All legal jobs, by the way, mostly legal. And nothing seemed to be getting the results that I was after. And so what makes some people win and other people lose? And it was that moment that I said, well, what can I control? If I really take a look and say the elements of my life that I can control, what allows me to propel myself forward instead of staying stuck? I said I can control personal growth. Secondly, the letter E, I can control how engaged I am. That decision to draw the line in the sand and say, I'm going to win. I'm going to figure it out. Number 3, the A in the G.E.A.R framework stands for acceleration. I can control my activity rate. I can control how quickly, how much I fail so that I can learn the lessons I need to learn in order to be a success. And then R, risk. I can control what I focus on, what I choose to focus on, and understanding what is at stake. Some external motivation. It's because they have a crystal clear picture of what changes in their life, how their life will look different tomorrow, next week, next month, a year from now, if they do not win at this thing that they are pursuing. And so that G.E.A.R framework, growth, engagement, acceleration, and risk, has been the playbook that I have applied ever since that day when I felt sorry for myself, looking across my scuffed up dress shoes, standing next to my 5-speed Mustang. And I said, I cannot control what happens to me. I cannot control the economy. I can't control whether a company, a sponsor, a partner out there says yes to me or no to me. But I can control those 4 areas of my life. And if I make sure that I utilize those 4 gears every day, then that'll keep me outside of my comfort zone long enough to go and win. Yeah, I don't drive a professional dragster today in top fuel, but I have had an 11-year career in professional monster trucks, as a keynote speaker, as a published author, as a Guinness World Record holder. And every time I look back at the pathway that I took, I've realized that everything good in my life, both professionally and personally, has come outside of my comfort zone. Comfort zones are not inherently bad. But just like a NASCAR race out there, a round track race, they have a pit stop, don't they? And they have to come in and they have to get fresh fuel. They have to get a new set of tires so that they can get back out there and win the race. Comfort zones for us, those times when we get home and we get to relax and unwind, those days when we just get to unplug, maybe that vacation when we actually shut the laptop and not answer that next email that seems pressing. All of those areas, those are great. That's how we unwind. Those are our pit stops. But we also have to admit that that's also not where the race is won, is it? We have to take those comfort zone moments, those pit stops, allow ourselves to be refueled, put a fresh set of tires on our car, metaphorically, and then to get back out there on the track and win our race. And I don't have to have all the answers right now. I'm not losing because I don't have some secret formula that someone else has. All I have to do is find the right playbook to stay outside of my comfort zone long enough that I can win my race and go and win. That is exactly what the G.E.A.R framework does. When I introduce my G.E.A.R framework on stage, the one thing that I want the audience to feel before I ever explain a single G.E.A.R is hope. Hope. Now that word can kind of get thrown around a little bit and sounds cheesy from time to time. I think it gets overused, to be honest. And I don't mean some general feeling of happiness, just like, well, I'm just hopeful that tomorrow will be better than today. That's not what I mean. I mean a genuine core belief that the audience member that's sitting there listening to me, he or she has what it takes to actually achieve the things that they're dreaming about. All of us are doing so much, and a lot of mornings we stare into that mirror and we ask that question, do we really have what it takes? Is there something wrong with me? Is there something I should be doing better? Maybe everyone else around me is just smarter than I am. And we have to kind of hype ourselves up. What I want people to understand is everything that is good in their lives has come from outside of their comfort zones. And if they will just get a playbook to stay outside of their comfort zones longer and in a healthier way, then they have every avenue available to them to be able to succeed and achieve it. The very first shift that every high performer learns to make is growth. Growth. High performers understand that our inputs determine our outputs. My 12,000 pound, 1,500 horsepower runs off of a very specific fuel. And you can't just take my truck up to a local gas station and put 87 pump gas in it and then expect it to do backflips and all these cool innovative stunts, jumping 45 feet in the air. It's not going to work. But the big question is, what are you filling it back with? Because if we're just emptying our minds, then what happens? Social media, email, our day-to-day grind forces things into our minds and into our hearts in ways that we weren't necessarily prepared for. And that's that sea-level fuel. That's that 87 pump gas from a local gas station when you're a monster truck meant to do monster truck things. And we have to get back to protecting our inputs so that we can have better outputs in what we're trying to achieve. Personal growth is non-negotiable for all of us. It is not easy, and it always forces us outside of our comfort zones, but that is exactly where the most fruit on the tree is going to be found, is outside that comfort zone. Get unstuck and become one of those top performers is to understand how to truly engage. The letter E in my G.E.A.R framework stands for engagement because average performers oftentimes are simply waiting for someone to give them permission to win. Now, the beautiful thing is when that light bulb moment goes off in their minds to say they can give themselves permission to win. But if you're a manager, if you're a leader of a team, you have to understand most of your average performers are just kind of waiting for someone smarter than them, better than them to say, hey, buddy, it's your time. It's your opportunity. This is your year. You can be a top performer, as simple as that sounds. And here's how I know that's true. There's two questions that all of us are asking inside of our organizations. Number one, do I really believe in this company's direction, in the vision, in the goal? Like if I look at what we're saying we're going to go to, grow to in the next 3 to 5 years, do I really believe that our brand, our company, our team can achieve that? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the maximum belief possible, where would I fall on that? But the second question that has to be asked that ties on that, like a coin, like two sides of the same coin, is on a scale of 1 to 10, do I believe that my job, my position, my role is going to help us achieve that vision as a company? You have to have both. If that's the case, that person's not going to be engaged. And vice versa. If there's only a scale of 1 to 10, if they're a 5 and believing the company can actually get there, but they're a 9 in their own abilities, they're not going to fully engage in what you're trying to achieve. And so the secret is getting the 5s up to a 9 and a 10. The third shift that every high performer makes at some point in their pursuits is the acceleration gear. They find this gear and they work at a level that starts to blow everyone else's minds. And everyone that's hearing this right now, they're like, Bryce, I can't do more work than I'm doing right now. I'm at full capacity. So good on them, good on the high performer, but I'm maxed out. And the thing I want everyone to understand is that maybe you're doing the right things, but what if you're not doing enough of the right things? Like, you're so busy doing stuff, all of the things that your job and your role requires you to do, but you're spending 95% of the things that do not drive results. For instance, maybe you're a social media marketer and you are doing all these things where you're putting all these plans together and you're developing the strategies, but you post 3 times in 1 month for that brand. And you throw your hands up because you didn't get any engagement. You got 0 results, no product sales for the brand off of that. And it's kind of an extreme example because even all of us would be sitting there going, well, of course you didn't get results. You only posted 3 times. But I meet so many average performers that think they can do an average amount of the right things and still get results. We have to learn how to protect the time that we do have, doing the things that number 1, we're good at, and number 2, that drive results. For that same social media marketing person, I was helping a franchise-based organization, Great Clips, and they had a franchise group that was really struggling with product sales. And their employees are like, look, I'm a hairstylist. I don't want to sell products all the time. That's not what I'm good at. And we kind of flipped everything on its head and we said, look, you're right. You're excellent at being a hairstylist. You're excellent at being an expert when it comes to cutting the hair and styling the hair. But what you're missing is the opportunity to take it one step further and further the way that customers see your expertise. What if, maybe you've asked 4 questions to your customer base in 1 month about their hair or maybe about what products they use. But what if every single customer that sat in your seat, in your chair, in your booth, you asked them, hey, what products are you using right now? What do you like to style your hair with? But what we started to see was not just belief in the team that they could actually sell products because they had a record number of sales that very month that we tried this. So they had the belief go up, but they started to have this observable data point that was huge for us of compounding results. And what I mean by that is it wasn't just, well, for every 1 question we sold 1 product. They were having stylists that went from 1 sale a week to 2 sales to 4 sales to 8 sales a week of products. And they started having all this insane belief that they could sell products, not because they were salespeople, but because they were signaling to their customer base that they were experts in this category. This 4th shift is my very favorite one to share because the people that make this shift and find their risk gear are unleashed at achieving the things that they're trying to achieve because every high performer out there has something to lose. Every high performer, they understand what life is going to look like if they lose. They know how life will change if they do not achieve the thing that they're setting out to achieve. Because here's the secret. if life is not going to look any different if I lose at what I'm trying to do, if my life will just keep being the same from losing, even after I lose, then why would I ever give 100% effort if I can just try again later? Can you guess when they actually went and interviewed and asked this question, and all of the employees at those 600 companies, a lot of employees, to name the top 3 priorities right now for their organization, the percentage of people that could name the top 3 priorities was only 2%. 2%. Of course, we have an issue in corporate America right now where employees are not engaged, they're not confident, they don't feel like individuals, but worse, there is no urgency because no one understands what they're trying to achieve. And so that one observable behavior that I always see when teams and individuals start to have something to lose is urgency. Urgency. It's not, well, I'll get to that eventually. It's, I need to do that right now because they have something at stake. Why? Answering that question of why do we exist? What are we really trying to do together? And why is it important that we do that thing? That has to be something that has stakes assigned to it and aligned with it, that every employee understands. If we do not go and achieve that thing, then that why doesn't happen. And so the leadership, C-suite, when I sit across the table from them and I start to break this down, we always understand and start with clarifying that why and attaching stakes to it, and then being able to clearly communicate that at every level of the organization. And it is the biggest driver of results that I have ever seen.